What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from Hop Butcher for the World, and they're out of Chicago, Illinois, and this is their all-beef Frank. So this is a Simcoe and Nelson Sauvin-hopped double IPA that comes in at 8% alcohol by volume, no IBUs in time of review. This can is just under 6 weeks old. I'm going to give a huge thanks, shout out once again to Hop Butcher for this beer, so big thanks to them. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies they sent my way. They sent me 12 beers in total, 6 of which were unique, and this is one of the 6. So I'm really excited about this one. I love when they do Chicago themed beers as a whole. This is, inspired by Chicago food. The all beef Frank used in the Chicago style of dogs, and this hop combo of Simcoe and Nelson, I like it. I've had it a handful of times before that I can remember off the top of the dome piece. And Simcoe, I usually get, that dankness. A lot of people will say cattiness, but I also get like peach and pineapple and blood orange. And then with Nelson, it's the white grape, white wine, kind of like dank. A lot of folks will say diesel bud. So it's going to be curious to see how these two intertwine, and I'm here for it. Now, I did not check the tasting notes on the back. We'll try to remember to read them at the end, but we'll see. I'm not going to say we're going to remember, but I'm hoping. Anyway, hashtag proper glassware. We'll give it a pour here and see how it goes. Yeah, so just like the Galaxy Bowl, which is the other one that or the first one I reviewed, this kind of has that, that Hop Butcher look to it. We're going to do something like that. Now, I did roll this before I turned on the camera, so there is that. We're going to throw this over here. Now, I will say, this, I'll be honest with you. Now, I don't know how it's going to look on camera. This looks like it could be potentially oxidized. Now, a lot of times when I say I look on camera, I'm like, wow, that looks fine. And then I look back sometimes like, wow, that looks terrible. I've said that. I forget about the most recent one that was oxidized. It was from Kettlehead, and it didn't look as bad on the camera as it did in person. This might be one of those things where, it does, I take it back. It doesn't look that bad, but maybe a little bit of oxidation. But it has this like very milky kind of, shout out to Joe Senegali, you poured milk into orange juice kind of look. A bit darker though, for sure. Has almost a 2-finger of this really creamy colored head. It has like an off-white, eggshell white kind of look to it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's in the hashtag proper glassware, okay? And it kind of looks like a Hop Butcher beer. It just looks a little bit darker. So we'll see. Hopefully it's not oxidized whatsoever. But if it is, it is. Let's get a nose. Doesn't smell oxidized. Ooh, very dank. Yeah, there's a huge, very dank, a little bit of that diesel character. A lot of sweet candied fruit notes. So there's like candied citrus, like a candied orange, a candied tangerine, more in that realm, as I just break my hand. There's also stone fruits here: peach, mango, apricot, nectarine. Maybe a touch of like a more of a fleshier kind of fruit, like a papaya or something. And there is a little bit of like, and I've been saying this a lot lately, so I don't know if it's my palate's been picking up on it more or just how it is, but I'm getting a little bit like a vanilla confectionery sweetness. Now, sometimes when I get oxidized, hop forward beers in the hazy realm, I will get like a confectionery sweetness. That doesn't smell like what's going on here. This smells more like vanilla. And a lot of times I'll say people will get cotton candy or bubble gum, and I'll get vanilla. I'm getting vanilla here. So it's almost giving me like a creamsicle or like citrus creamsicle vibes. But there's this nice, again, dankness on the back end. It has like this earthy green dank kind of thing. Smells like it's going to be sweeter. Now, this is an 8% double IPA from them instead of 7.5. Ooh. Yeah, that vanilla is like, it's creamsicle for sure. This smells different, but it doesn't smell oxidized, if I'm just being honest. It looks a little bit oxidized, doesn't smell it. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again to Hop Butcher. This is an interesting one, because the Simcoe and Nelson, for me, are bringing a lot of that dank, herbaceous, earthy, kind of grassy, just green quality. But then there's that vanilla mixing it with like the citrus and the stone fruits. Mine is higher side medium, lower side of full, 8%, a little bit bigger than anticipated. The mouthfeel of Hop Butcher is fantastic. It's soft, it's smooth, it's creamy, mild to moderate carbonation. Incredibly creamy on the palate, top tier mouthfeel, kind of like that Galaxy Bowl. I haven't had a Hop Butcher hop forward beer in a minute. When I had that Galaxy Bowl, and it just kind of hit me. I was like, yeah, this is why I like Hop Butcher, right? That's kind of what's happening with the mouthfeel here. The taste, however, it's not as vibrant as the nose. The nose was, again, big citrus, stone fruits, dankness. This is more of just the dank is coming to the forefront. That vanilla toned down as well, which I think I kind of prefer that. I don't want this to be like a sweet, super creamsicle thing. So let me try to break it down. Forefront, it's orange. It's like a blood orange, but it's more like the pith or rind, and not like juiciness. As it continues to pass on through, a little bit of tangerine, maybe a touch of like a white grapefruit, but then it transitions into this stone fruit, this peach, mango, papaya, fleshier stone fruit. There's an underlying vanilla kind of sweetness that it's giving slight creamsicle. In the nose, it was way more creamsicle. But the finish of this one is very dank. Again, somewhat herbaceous, grassy, green, earthy. Not hop burn wise. Like, there's no hop burn here. Just has I'm going to shout out to, see, I just kind of blanked there for a second, so I was trying to remember when we talked about this, but it was, I think, yesterday. Maybe, yeah, technically yesterday. Earlier today. Sierra Hotel. Great friend of mine, viewer of the channel, has hooked me up with some amazing beers over the past, 8 to 10 months. He was talking about how he hates when some beers give him this earthy abrasiveness on the back, which is very akin to when I say I don't want like a triple IPA or a big double IPA to be boozy or too sweet. There's certain characteristics we all hate in beers that will kind of instantly turn us off. And he said an earthy abrasiveness. That's what I'm kind of getting here. It's very earthy. It's very dank. And it's somewhat abrasive on the finish. It doesn't mean that I don't like this beer, because I think it's solid. I think it's good. It's just something's a little bit off for me. And it's not oxidized. Like I said, when I've had oxidized beers, whether it's a old ale or barley wine that's 10 years old, or it's an IPA, usually I get some kind of just like, I'll get like a cardboardy-esque finish. That confectionery sweetness will be real different than what I'm drinking here. And again, as I poured it in, this doesn't look oxidized whatsoever. Like, it might look a little bit darker on camera, but in person, I've had way darker beers than this within the New England Double IPA realm. I just think the Simcoe and Nelson are kind of clashing on the finish for me. This finish is semi to full-on dry, very mild bitterness, almost, I take it back, almost no bitterness. Like, it has more of a, full-on dryness. The thing about it is this beer isn't overly sweet either. A lot of Hop Butcher beers can be a bit sweeter, so you need something to balance them out. Don't really need that. I don't think I'm digging that finish. Like, I was excited about Simcoe and Nelson, and I'm drinking this, and I'm like, I don't like it as much as I thought I was going to. Now, I'm curious to what other people thought about this one. This is just under 6 weeks old, so it's not like it's super old. They sent it to me. I put it right in my fridge. 8%, a little bit of warming in the chest. One more sip. Pros of this one. I like that vanilla tone, giving me slight creamsicle vibes. The body and mouthfeel, especially the mouthfeel, outstanding. I don't mind the first like half to 3/4 of the palate. The finish, this is one of those beers where I'm not going to say it ruins it completely for me, because I still think this is a solid, decent, somewhat good beer. It's just that finish, each sip, like, I'm fine with it up until the finish, and then I'm like, ugh. And outside of just saying it's kind of has this, like, again, earthy abrasiveness, shout out to Sierra Hotel, like, that's a great descriptor in my opinion. Like, it has this abrasive finish that's earthy, a little bit green, but not in a hot burn way, and just a little bit too dank for me. And I thought the Simcoe and Nelson would bring everything together, in a beautiful harmony, and it really hasn't. So, all beef frank from Hop Butcher. I got to be honest, I'm going to give this a low 3.75. I'm going to go 3.65. Probably one of the lowest hop forward ratings I've given a Hop Butcher beer in a hot minute. Now, here's the thing. People know that, Hop Butcher is kind enough to send a lot of beer tubers, basically, beer. Every once in a while, they'll drop a box on us, and it's awesome. But at the same time, I've got to be honest about the beers. And I gave this a 3.65, and like I said, that's not typical for me when it comes to Hop Butcher stuff. Like, it's usually quite higher than that. Like, the Galaxy Bowl was fantastic, and it was, but this is just missing the mark for me. Now, whatever that reason being, as a whole, just for me, it's that earthy abrasiveness in the finish, and there's not enough fruitiness. Like, the first 3/4 of the palate are good, pretty good, but I was still hoping for, like, I didn't get any white grapes in here, no white wine, nothing from the Nelson outside of that dank. It's not even a diesel character, because I don't mind the diesel character when I get it occasionally. But the Simcoe, just with the Nelson, I think the dankness and that earthy abrasiveness just kind of loses me a bit. So tasting notes, bright citrus. Yeah, I mean, I got some citrus, so I'll be okay with that. Crisp melon, and no, I did not. Tangy berry. Tangy maybe, but berry no. So yeah, clearly my palate's off. Or, this is a bad can, but again, I don't think it is, because what I'm tasting isn't the indications of a poorly brewed beer. It's just a beer not for me. Yeah, that vanilla is there too, and the vanilla is kind of weird because it's not as fruity as you anticipate, and it kind of carries on to the back of the finish. So, yeah, 3.65. Price point availability around Chicagoland, I think these are typically $15, $16, which is fantastic value. Once you hit distro, like here in New York State, more specifically Buffalo, New York, these are going to show up. They're going to be $20 to $22 4-pack. So a single can's anywhere from like $5, $56. It's kind of the going rate. A lot of times I'll go into one or two of my local bottle shops will be right next to like the other half stuff. Very similar pricing. So I can't say that they're expensive or anything. It's just when it makes distro, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. And availability, it's Hop Butcher. Who the fuck knows? I don't know anything about distro anymore. They get distro to a bunch of different places, and then not to any other places. You'll sometimes see them on Tavor and other websites. Outside of that, like, I don't know. We get them here occasionally in West New York, like every 4 to 6 weeks. We'll get a couple drops of them. Outside of that, I don't know. So if you've seen this one before, here's the thing for anybody who's watching to the end. If you have had this one before or you've seen it, what did you think about this one? Did you get a completely different experience than I did? How fresh was your can? Because again, got to be honest with you guys, this is one of my least favorite Hop Butcher beers that I've had in a long time. It just doesn't do it for me, especially if they're hop forward offerings, which they just absolutely kill it typically for me. And it's a bummer because I love everything about this can and the theme, and I thought the hop combo was going to just work perfectly. Turns out it didn't. That's why you don't go into reviews with preconceived notions, because you never know what's going to end up happening. So anyway, I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. I also appreciate Hop Butcher sending this one to me, even though I didn't really love it. I'm probably going to drink the rest of this and not really, complain too much about it. It's just that finish, fuck, man, it pisses me off. It really does. And sometimes it happens, even to some of your favorite breweries. So, got to be honest, it is what it is. To the next one. Cheers.